Sup guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about something that's very relevant to what's going on. Ontario, they just recently pushed forward the new Ontario ticket legislation that came into effect on July 1st. And so what I want to talk about today is why did this come into effect, what are the rules, and what does it all mean to you? Let's get into it. Story time. Let's go back 2 years to 2016. So, back in 2016, there was an announcement that was made by Gord Downie, lead singer of the Tragically Hip. Basically, him saying, hey, sorry to tell you guys that I've been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer. When I say I mean him. Very sad day to a lot of Tragically Hip fans, as well as any of his, supporters and friends and family. So it was very serious stuff. With that being said, though, the band announced that they were going to do a final farewell tour, just to kind of celebrate all of their music, give back to the fans, give back to the community, basically give back to Canada for all the hard work and support that they received, and just kind of, again, do one kind of farewell tour before he actually went under for surgery and kind of going through that whole process. So what happened, they announced the Man Machine Poem Tour. It was going to kick off in the summer of 2016, and it was going to end in their hometown of Kingston, Ontario. So, they kind of, get set up for all ticket sales. They're going to go on. They had announced a few pre-sales. Next thing you know, though, as soon as the first pre-sale hit, boom, nothing was left. People were crying. They were asking what's going on, where are all the tickets. So they wait for the next pre-sale. Same thing. Nothing was available. All right, fine. Let's try one more time. General sales coming up right at the beginning of June. Nothing. So now you go onto Twitter, you see all the different comments, and you're like, oh my gosh, I couldn't get anything. Bots are everywhere. Ticketmaster's trying to screw me over. Couldn't believe it. Ridiculous. I quit. A lot of people were complaining on Twitter. A lot of news articles started coming out. A lot of interviews were happening. People were reaching out to Ticketmaster, to StubHub, to Vivid Seats. Basically, everyone was just crying foul, saying, hey, brokers, they bought all the tickets. There was nothing available on Ticketmaster. And next thing you know, I look on StubHub and I see them for thousands of dollars. And it's the only way I'm able to buy them. Now I have to spend all this money to actually go and watch this concert. All this anger, all this angst, all this turmoil basically led to a lot of outcry going towards reforming the way tickets are actually kind of resold in Ontario. And so what happened is the Ontario legislation, they took it upon themselves. They started doing a lot of public consultations. They started asking a lot of people basically what they thought, figuring out, what is the issue here, what happened, what's going on, and how can we basically try and address this so that it doesn't happen again. Fast forward another year and a half, basically the Ontario government, they put together some legislation, drafted it, got it through all the public consultations and all the other, legislative procedures. Cross the I's, dotted the T's. Nope. Dotted the I's, crossed the T's, and put it into effect as of July 1st, 2018. The biggest piece here was that the Ontario government had decided to put in one special line of legislation. What made this piece of legislation so important was the price cap. They were going to put in a price cap that limited resale tickets to up to 50% of the face value. The public got very excited after hearing about this. But there was definitely a lot of outcry from the different resale markets and different lobbying groups who are very much against it, saying, you can't put a price on free market. You can't limit people to what they were going to do. If you do this, you're going to start creating a whole bunch of underground economies. So there were definitely a lot of different groups who were giving their opinions, but it was decided that back at the end of 2017, this was going to be part of the final legislation. So then fast forward all the way to July 1st, 2018, ticket law goes into effect. And nothing happened. No one really saw any changes. No one really knew what to expect. It was kind of like, it just kind of was done, but what really changed? Nobody really saw anything. Let's get into what the actual legislation is talking about, and then we'll get into how it actually affects you, the buyer. All right, let's talk legislation. So exciting. All right, number one. So any tickets that are resold in Ontario basically have to come with some kind of guarantee or confirmation. So it basically means if you're going to buy a ticket from somebody, it has to be guaranteed that it's going to work. So, not a bad deal. All right, second one, if someone tries to sell a ticket through the resale market, basically they can't actually list it unless they have the ticket in their possession or in their control. So what does that mean? Basically, you can't sell a ticket on speculation. All right, next big one, bots banned. Can't have a bot anymore. Sorry about that, bot owners. Bots have basically just been banned across the board. If you're caught with one, a whole bunch of fines that are associated with it. So there's a whole bunch of new ticket disclosures. Basically, if you go and buy a ticket on the secondary market, it has to basically say where the section is. It can't just be listed in a zone saying it'll be seated in one of these areas. It has to actually give you a specific section to say where the ticket is. Otherwise, you technically can't list that ticket on the secondary market. Legally. sometimes, things happen. So another interesting one is the primary sellers. They have to tell the public whenever there's going to be a sale of tickets of any kind. So what does this mean? I mean, obviously they're going to tell you when a general sale is happening, but they also need to now tell you all the different distribution methods. So if there's going to be a pre-sale for Amex, and then a pre-sale for the City Card, and then a pre-sale for the fan club, basically all of these have to make sure that they're actually disclosed to the public up front. In the past, you'd have venues or performers just kind of tell you when the tickets were going to go on sale to the general public. Not that they would hide the fan club sales, but they would basically only tell the fan club members when that fan club sale was going to happen, and then they'd tell the general public when the general public sale was going to happen. So this one, you don't really notice too much, but basically face value of tickets, the price has to be listed on the ticket itself. Face value is kind of an interesting one. So whenever a ticket is sold, it'll have what it say it's $50 ticket. It'll say $50 on it. But a face value ticket itself actually includes all the different service fees as well, excluding taxes. So if the ticket was $50 plus a $25 service charge, in theory, that face value of the ticket should be $75, and that's what it should say on the ticket. However, a lot of times it's kind of broken out into different lines. So you'll have the $50 face value plus $25 service charge, and then it might list the taxes and stuff on the rest of the ticket. But basically, the face value of the ticket needs to be listed on the ticket itself. All right, and then as I mentioned already, the last one, price cap. So, price cap of the ticket, basically there's an upper limit now of selling a ticket for 150% of the face value. However, it was just announced on July 4th that the line for price caps on legislation has actually been put on hold. The reason behind that is that the Ontario government doesn't have a way of actually policing the price cap. And so until they can kind of figure out a proper format of doing so, this one line in the legislation is actually going to be on hold until basically further notice. With that, it kind of leads us into how this legislation affects you. So in short, the big thing that's going to happen to you is nothing. I'm sorry to tell you that, but it's just the truth. This legislation, it definitely has a lot of great features to it. It's talking about all the different disclosures that have to be put out there. There's a whole bunch of new fines out there. But unfortunately, even as the Ontario government has just said, policing this is very, very difficult. And that's where the real problem comes in with this piece of legislation. This is the same issue that's happening in all the other different provinces and states that have similar types of legislation where they make it illegal to run different bots or have different price caps or have other pieces of legislation that require certain disclosures to be made. It's very hard to actually control if these procedures and laws and rules are actually being followed. If some Joe Schmo wants to go onto Kijiji and sells a ticket for $500, which had a face value of $50, unless he's reported to the police and the police go and investigate and they actually find out that it actually happened and he sold the ticket, and then you can prove all of this, you're basically out of luck. So it makes it very hard to actually be able to say any of these new rules or pieces of legislation are actually going to have an impact on the way you're able to buy your ticket. I mean, a lot of the bigger ticket sellers, so StubHubs and the SeatGeeks and the Vivid Seats, they already have a lot of these different disclosures in place. So, when you're going to go through the ticket buying process, it's going to list out the ticket price, it's going to list out the service charges, it's going to list out the different taxes and fees. It doesn't right now. They don't kind of list out the face value of tickets, but that's a very easy thing to implement if that's something that they're going to start doing. They should, obviously, because it's now part of the law. These are all very important things, but they're just not going to have a very large impact on your ticket buying experience. There's very little that's actually going to change in terms of that. Really, the only thing I get out of this piece of legislation is that it reiterates the fact that ticket buyers need to become smarter. Smarter, faster, better. Basically, they need to get the skills to be able to buy tickets at face value themselves rather than having to go through the different websites, the StubHubs and the SeatGeeks of the world. You need to learn these skills so that you can avoid going through all of this hassle in the first place. I understand it's not easy. You're going up against people who have all this different technology, have all these different skills, who've been doing this for years and years. They've been out there going to buy tickets day after day, and you're going in once or twice a year, maybe a couple of times more. You're trying to buy a ticket for that one big event that's coming through, and you just don't have the ability to do it. You're going up against really big players, and you're just a small fish in a big pond. You're in for a world of hurt. With that being said, that's what this whole channel is all about. It's all about teaching you all the different skills, getting you ready so that when that event comes around, you're ready to go. You're able to buy that ticket. You don't need to go through all this hassle of dealing with the secondary market. You've bought your ticket for face value. You get to go to that event. You don't have to deal with any of this. Life is great. With that being said, let's teach you guys how to buy all those tickets. Let's get you ahead of all this. I'm going to make you guys so good at buying tickets that you're not even going to need me anymore. You can forget about all the different price caps. You forget about all the different disclosures. You'll have the tickets in hand yourself from the beginning anyway. Knowing that you were the one who bought that ticket for face value without having to deal with all of this secondary market hassle, it's just an amazing feeling. Let's get out there, let's start learning those different skills, and let's forget that this legislation even came into effect. Woo! I feel inspired! Definitely hit that like button if you like what you saw. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll see you next time. People were complaining so much, saying it's not fair, bots were taking over, brokers were taking over, Ticketmaster was hiding tickets from everybody, selling them themselves. It was just chaos. Chaos. Madness, I say. Madness.